Welcome to another short subject from EducateVersely.com. In our process design for Six Sigma course, as you begin to develop a process using this method of DMADV, we begin with quality function deployment as a way to translate that voice of the customer requirements into the processes that we're going to design. Now in the define phase, you define the project requirements. In the measure phase, what we're talking about here is what are the requirements for the process, and now we're going to develop the requirements. And the requirements start with the voice of the customer. In our particular example, we're taking a look at a quality management system which is going to be impacting how we manage and control a supply chain. So if you think about the supply chain, who are all those customers? Well, we start with the company itself. That's one of the customers. We have to meet business goals and objectives. Another customer is the ultimate end user of the products and the services that we would deliver. The other customer for information that's really important to us is our suppliers. Now you think, well, how can a supplier be the customer? Well, if we want the suppliers to deliver to us those goods and services that are going to meet our requirements, we need to understand what their requirements are so they can do a better job of delivering what we need. So we wanted to find out what their voice was all about. So we included them in our voice of the customer data capture. So after we've gone out and done interviews, focus groups, asked people questions, and got that information, now we have a listing of the things that are important to us from the supply chain standpoint. So our VOC is going to include delivery, it's going to include quality, it's going to have communication, a very important feature, safety, cost, and our supplier requirements. All right, so these were the key elements in the voice of the customer. And we have some more detail here, and you'll see that in the materials, the detail behind it. But from a high-level standpoint, okay, here's the main items of voice of the customer. Then what we want to do is turn those into a rated and ranked grouping. So to rate and rank them, we start with how important they are to the business. So we have business importance, we have our current performance, we have our future performance, we also have a leverage factor, and that is based on the Kano model. All right, so these get ranked on a score of 1 to 5, 1 to 5, 1 to 5. So we start with the business importance. How important are they to the business on a scale of 1 to 5? Then we take a look at, okay, currently, how well do we perform right now on a score of 1 to 5? And we want to be honest about that. And then the future. After we've designed and implemented these new processes, what's our future performance going to look like? Then we look at that gap from the current performance to the future performance to give us an improvement ratio, which we multiply by our business importance. And then we take a look at the Kano model from the standpoint of, Kano model has the lighters, it has more is better, and it has must-haves. So if we look at any of these voice of the customer requirements, if we did a really good job, is that something that would delight the people across our supply chain? Is that something, if we got better and better at it, would more of that be better always? And then what are the things we have to have just to compete? And those are the must-haves. So these get scores, which are multipliers then. This is a score of 1.5, 1.2 for more is betters, and 1.0 for must-haves. So after getting these numbers together, and we do this as a group, so there's a collective collaboration going on so that everybody gets a chance to get their input into it. And then the tool, quality function deployment, will help us reach consensus to end up with a priority score that we then have for all of the elements within our QFD. So that allows us to prioritize the voice of the customer, and that's the first piece. Once we have that piece, then we can begin to utilize quality function deployment to help us to understand what are the processes that we're going to need for this quality management system. So we're going to start with the voice of the customer, and we call those the what's. Those are the what's. And then up here, we're going to begin with our functional requirements, and that is the how. And we'll have this matrix right here. So the voice of the customer, we prioritize that. That's what we have to deliver if we want to be successful. And the functional requirements tell us the how we're going to deliver meeting the what's. So the functional requirements, those are going to be the things that tell us just what is it that our processes are going to have to deliver. What are they going to have to be able to do so that we can achieve meeting the voice of the customer? And then to help us with this laundry list of functional requirements, we want to narrow that field down to the key requirements that we have to have, which then leads to the processes that we have to design. So to get to that, we're going to take a look at comparing these requirements against their impact on the voice of the customer requirements, the what's. So we'll take a look at these relationships, and we always go from the hows to the what's, from the hows to the what's. This functional requirement has what influence on this voice of the customer. And these can be scored with, we can have a blank, which means there's no relationship. We could have a score of a 1, a 3, a 6, or a 9. And I do believe the symbols that we've been using for that, we have an open triangle, a circle, we have a star, and then a solid dot. And then these rankings that we have in here, the relationship score, those multiply against the scores that we have from the what's to then give us our priority for the functional requirements. And the functional requirements with the highest priorities, those are the ones that we then begin to design the processes around. So that's how quality function deployment is going to be used in the beginning. And in the beginning, for us, the measure phase is where we develop the requirements. That's our requirements definition phase. In the define phase, we were defining the requirements for the project itself. But now we're talking about, in the measure phase, the requirements for the processes that we're going to have so that they can meet the voice of the customer requirements. In our next video, we're going to take a look at how do you develop these functional requirements.